Okay, we'll start then.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here today. And this is a wonderful morning because we have a wonderful duo with us. We've got Professor Balram Gupta and we've got Professor Shruti Bedi, both from the profession of law, their own different ways. Professor Balram Gupta is one person who has literally dedicated his life field of law. Name anything in the field of law, and he's an expert at it. I mean, I was trying to come to grips with his CV and I gave up. I said, well, this is something I'll sit and read post retirement because no way can I finish it right now. And one very beautiful aspect of Professor Balram Gupta's career is the way he has mentored so many people, so many people, right from our late alumna Sushma Swarajji, more humble people like you and me. Practically every speaker in Chandigarh owes something to him because I still remember while he was teaching at the Department of Laws, you went for a competition anywhere in the city. Professor Saab would be there to encourage you, to inspire you, and later on to give you feedback, and feedback so constructive that still echoes in my ears. And of course, his daughter. This is an interesting day because we have a father and daughter combination. They have both enriched Punjab University in their own ways. And Professor Shruti Bedi is contributing to the academic environment of the University Institute of Legal Studies. She is mentored to so many students. I mean, I interact with students on a regular basis because earlier as Dean International Students and now as Dean Alumni Relations, I come across students from every department. The moment I come across a remarkable child and I ask, are you from UILS? Yes. The answer is, okay, my mentor is Shruti ma'am. Shruti ma'am all the way. Shruti ma'am all the way. So I can see that here is a daughter has internalized all the greatness of. So this was something natural. They're coming together for us. I won't take up more time now. I welcome you all, and I know that we are in for a beautiful session. I'll now hand over to Sonia, who is the mover and shaker at the alumni office. Yeah, please take over.
Thank you, ma'am. In front of your welcome address, my formal introduction and welcome falls flat.
Come on.
But anyways, good morning, everyone. Good to see all of you here. And it is my privilege to welcome and introduce such an esteemed and honorable speakers. Please allow me a few minutes to read out their accomplishments, though I might not be able to cover everything because they have spent their whole lives in this. And please forgive me if I miss out on something important. Dr. Balram K. Gupta, who's the Director Academics Chandigarh Judicial Academy, is a professional lawyer, judicial educator, and at the national and international level. Sir has been designated Senior Advocate, former Director, National Judicial Academy India, Dean, Faculty of Law, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, Professor and Chairman, Department of Laws, Punjab University, Chandigarh, and Parliamentary Fellow, ICPS. Sir has been honored with State Award of Navya Ratan, and as distinguished alumnus, he has been honored at the first global meet of Punjab University Alumni Association. Sir is a Paul Harris Fellow. He has been awarded Lifetime Achievement Award by Rotary International District. There are so many achievements. We can go on and on. So we are grateful to you for accepting our invitation. Thank you for coming here. Now, about Professor Shruti Bedi, she's a multi-talented uh, professor. She's professor of law at the University Institute of Legal Studies, Punjab University, Chandigarh. She's also director, Center for Constitution and Public Policy, UILS PU, Faculty Chair, Alternate Dispute Resolution, and Client Counseling Board, UILS PU. And is the former coordinator, Center for IAS, Punjab University. She's an author, she's a speaker, she has spoken at many international talks, media debates, panel discussions, and lectures. And she has also recently delivered Constitution Day lecture on Indian Constitution and fundamental duties at Raj Bhavan. She has also given a TEDx talk on justice, the first promise. And when I spoke to ma'am, I was taken off guard. And if you remember, ma'am, I said, "Ma'am, have you spent all your life doing this on me?" And then I realized, what am I saying? And it was just, it just came. Uh, I was just taken aback, and I was, ma'am, when do you take time for yourself? And any, thank you for coming here, ma'am. And we are looking forward to a great session today. Welcome. Over to you, sir. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Deepti, Sonia, and this assemblage, special assemblage of the Punjab University and others. Good morning to you all. It's such a delight to be with you on this platform, particularly along with Professor Shruti Bedi, my dear daughter. My journey from the classroom to the courtroom has been a beautiful journey. I live in the reflected glory of my students. That's my joy. That's my bank balance. And I treasure it so very well. When I was asked as to on what particular topic would I like to, along with Shruti, first we thought something of constitutional importance, but then during the COVID days, I thought something lighter needs to be brought in, because that's the need of the hour as such. And therefore, this 50 minutes or 55 minutes or 60 minutes of humor in court would be just to take off your minds from the COVID situation, for that matter. Every profession, may it be teaching, may it be medical, may it be the legal profession, humor is a lubricant. Every talk that is delivered, every lecture that is delivered in the classrooms, if it is laced with humor, that's the real beauty, and that takes the seriousness out, and it becomes far more absorbing in that context. About the lawyers, so many things have been said. Things which are not very encouraging or happy for that matter. William Shakespeare in Henry's the Sixth, Part 2 says, the first thing that we do, let us kill all the lawyers. And in spite of this, William Shakespeare's dictate, we cannot do without the lawyers. From good morning to good night, from birth till death, and even beyond. Because the need for a lawyer is so acute that you cannot just do without that. But let me assure you, they are brilliant minds, the lawyers, the judges. And therefore, no particular profession can be said to be absolutely free from the melodies of the life that normally we live in that context. Let me share an episode of Lord Denning. Lord Denning had been the most prominent judge of the 20th century. He lived for over a century. What rich contribution he made. On Mondays, he used to hear the petitions of those persons who wanted to argue in person. Those who argue in person are the most difficult persons to be handled in court. On a particular Monday, a lady appeared. She argued the matter. She was given a full hearing. And after that, her petition was dismissed. She got furious. And the fury of a lady, you can imagine. There were 3 books lying in front. She picked up a book and threw at Lord Denning. He ducked, and before he could realize what had happened, the second book came flying across to him. And the third one. No more books were there. Denning didn't say a word to her. No contempt notice, nothing of the kind. Cool. Absolutely. When she found that there is no response from Denning, she goes to the exit door, stops there, and says, "How cool, even in a war situation." And she walks out. When she walks out, then Denning coolly says, "It's a matter of sudden provocation." And that was the end of it. That's the beauty of a judicial cool temper. One thing which a judge should never lose, his or her temper. That's the lesson that we learn in that particular journey. Let me also share the story of K.L. Mishra, a late former Advocate General of the Allahabad High Court. Way back in the year 1926, he took the ICS examination. In his English paper, he scored 100 upon 100. The professor in England of English literature, who evaluated his paper, wrote a letter to Mr. Mishra's professor in India, in Allahabad. It is the Englishmen who have conquered India, but it is Mr. Kanhaiyalal Mishra who has conquered English. Somehow, he was not taken into the ICS because of the political reasons. And that's how he came to the legal profession. In the legal profession, he was a giant. In the Supreme Court, whenever he used to appear, the bench used to say, "Mr. Mishra, why don't you come more often to the Supreme Court? The quality of our judgments improves when you argue before us." That's the kind of legal minds that we have. Let me share a lighter aspect, a bit of it. Dean of the Medical Faculty of Harvard University said We prefer lawyers for experiments in a laboratory rather than rats. She was asked, why so? She gave two reasons. One, they are so numerous. Two, they do things which even the rats don't do. That's the way it was explained by lawyers in the laboratory for experiment purposes. I'm also reminded of a medical doctor and a lawyer. The medical doctor was traveling in his BMW, the lawyer in his Merc, the Mercedes. It was a chilly, foggy night. They met with an accident. The vehicles were damaged, no damage otherwise. They stopped. The lawyer said, let's call the police. The doctor said, fine. So the police was called. During the time when the police was to arrive at the scene, the lawyer offered a drink to the doctor, took out the bottle. It was a chilly night, and therefore that drink was offered to him. He took that drink. He said, why don't you also join? He said, I'm waiting for the police to arrive, and then we would take together as such. Now, look at the kind of a mind that works of a lawyer, that a drink was given in order to demonstrate that the doctor was drunk while he was driving. Even this would not be. A case was being argued in court, and it was an accident case. The judge asked the lawyer, how did the accident take place? The quick response of the lawyer was, it was a black night outside, black night inside. The road took the turn, but I did not. Let this be the beginning. I would now hand over to Professor Shruti to take this, and after that, I would again come into this. Over to Professor Shruti.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would first like to thank Professor Deepti Gupta, who's not really a professor. I call her actually the rock star professor of Punjab University for all her, the kind of effort that she puts in with such effortlessness, and the fact that she is always smiling and there for you whenever you need. Thank you so much, ma'am. To you, to your team, and to the Punjab University Alumni Association.
Thank you, Shruti. That feels good.
Rockstar. I would also like to thank Sonia ji, who is such an integral part of this. And she has been absolutely remarkable with coordinating with both of us and everything, moving effortlessly again. Thank you so much for all your effort, Sonia ji. Thank you for joining all of my senior professors, my colleagues, my friends, and students. It's a pleasure to be a part of this and speak before you along with my father, who's not just been a father, but he's taught everything that I know today. So it's again a privilege to be a part of this at Punjab University during this time with my father. Well, we are talking about the black-robed gentleman, and normally it is thought that the black and white life of lawyers must mean that it is very boring, and they are completely uninteresting. But let me share with you that that is not so, because along with justice, there is a lot of humor that is a part of the daily lives of lawyers and judges. And, you know, especially when listening to legal arguments in courts is boring and tedious, humor is the savior. And it is the quirky sense of humor which has been the savior of the black robe gentleman lawyer. And let me tell you that lawyers are as gossipy as any women. I think actually not women, because nowadays it's men who are more gossipy. So we will be sharing some memorable and lively moments from the black and white life, um, and some shenanigans. Our fascination with judges and lawyers has been perennial, and they have captured the minds of many. And legal humor is a topic which has lent itself to scholarly commentaries and articles, and it's been a prolific source of books as well. So here today we are talking about few of those such anecdotes and incidents, which I'm sure will tickle your sense of humor. I'm going to actually begin with somebody called William Prosser, who was famous for his caustic remarks against judicial humor. He didn't, he didn't particularly like the fact that judges could be humorous, especially at, when the client who is going through so much, and when the lawyer and the judge is being humorous, it is not in good taste. So he had something to say about judicial humor, which I'm going to share with you. And he said, judicial humor is a dreadful thing. The bench is not an appropriate place for unseemly levity, and the litigant has vital interests at stake. His entire future or even his life may be trembling in the balance. And the robed buffoon who makes merry at his expense should be choked with his own wig. Well, I do hope that never happens, because you will be sure to be hauled up for contempt of court now. Another incident which happened in an American courtroom was that while listening to the arguments of the lawyer, which some of the lawyers have a tendency to go on and on, tend to be boring, and puts the judge to sleep. So, apparently, bored by one of the counsel's arguments in an American courtroom, the judge fell off to sleep. So the lawyer leaned forward and told the court clerk, his name was Charlie. He said, "Charlie, wake him up." And Charlie cheekily responded, "You wake him up, since you're the one who put him to sleep in the first place." Another incident, and this is not really a joke, but sometimes the judges also uh, take refuge at poetry because of the situation that they are in. And one of the judgments of the Georgia Court of Appeals has been given in verse. So, this is a very old case of 1975, and the criminal defendant was named as Terry Brown, who was sentenced to 7 years of hard labor. And he was desperate, uh, and he was hoping that there would be some procedural error which had been made at his trial, and he would be let off in this court. The state attorney, on the other hand, was uneasy and worried that the conviction would be reversed. So there was a lot at stake. And when the court delivered its verdict, it was something like that, which was in a poem form. It said the DA was ready. DA is the district attorney. The district attorney was ready. His case was red hot. The defendant was present. His witness was not. The trial was not fair. The defendant then sobbed, "With my main witness absent, I have simply been robbed." "If you still say I'm wrong," the able judge did then say, "why not appeal to Atlanta? Let those appeal judges earn part of their pay." To continue civil cases, the judge holds all aces, but it's a different ball game in criminal cases. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of humor that the stories that I've heard of have been both from my father and from my uncle, the late Justice Jawaharlal Gupta. And I would actually like to narrate an incident which he has recorded in one of his writings for the Tribune, which he wrote in 2001, which is an incident which actually happened in front of him. And he actually speaks of the fact, that an emperor or a king is recognized by the crown that he wears, and a lawyer is only recognized by the black and white clothes and attire that he wears. And he says that it takes many suits to keep a lawyer well dressed. Well, he narrates an incident of his friend Swami, who had piles of suits, and he had an extremely, good wardrobe, but he was always dressed like an unmade bed. He was very sloppily dressed always. He was carefully careless, as he used to say. And but whatever his dress was, he was brilliant and remarkable as a lawyer. He had an eagle's eye, and he could make mountains of molehills. That's the job of a lawyer. Well, he was arguing a case before the court, and it involved a simple question, which referred to the powers of the executive. The issue was that, can the government dismiss an employee without giving him a hearing, a proper hearing, which is a part of the natural justice principles, that you have a right to be heard before being punished. And the judges seemed that they were not inclined to give him relief. And, they were arguing with the lawyer that, what is it? So Mr. Swami, the lawyer, said, "My lords, does it matter to a fish whether it's fried or roasted? The petitioner who's standing before your lordships has lost his bread and butter, and he has had no opportunity to explain anything." So the judges said, come, Mr. Swami, you come here to court wearing a dhoti and an achkan. And you talk, and Mr. Swami had cited as one of the cases in his defense, he cited an well-known English case of Ridge versus Baldwin for the principles of natural justice. So referring to that comment, the judges said, you come here wearing a dhoti and achkan to us, and you are citing the House of Lords decision? Their lordships wear proper morning trousers and tailcoats with butterfly collars and bands, and they wear wigs, symbolic of old age and wisdom. Mr. Swami, not to be left behind, came back with his usual repartee, and he says, my lords, you're absolutely right. But may I submit, whether it's the Englishman's morning trouser, or the Indian's dhoti, the underlying principle is the same. Your lordships do not judge the quality of the wine by the look of the bottle. And he walked away with the last word and an order of dismissal again in favor of his client. So, ladies and gentlemen,
our mics are.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me? Deepti, ma'am, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Our mics are switched off, but believe me, we are all chuckling.
Okay, good to know that there's some response.
So you can imagine our chuckles while you are speaking.
Okay. I have a vivid imagination, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
Over to Professor Gupta now.
No, over to you. Yes, Professor Balram Gupta, go ahead.
Yes. We are going to keep switching.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can.
Yes.
Please. Let me also add some more incidents to what Shruti has given just now. I recall my student days in the law department. We had Dr. A.S. Anand a visiting faculty who was a lawyer at that time and later on became the Chief Justice of India. He narrated this, and it's an actual incident that took place in the Calcutta High Court. The courtroom was adjoining the boundary wall. A barrister was arguing a matter seriously. Suddenly, an ass started braying. Gradually, the braying was getting louder and louder and louder. And a situation arose when it became difficult for the court even to hear the lawyer. So the judge says, one at a time, please. And up came the response from the lawyer, "My lord, I thought it was the echo of the court." That's the way the mind of the lawyer works. Let me share another one. An English judge was in the habit of bringing his pet dog to the courtroom. The dog was so well tamed, would just sit down, will not disturb the proceedings of the court at all. On a given day, the lawyer was arguing, and suddenly the judge started looking at the dog. The lawyer stopped. The judge asked the lawyer, "Why have you stopped?" And the response of the lawyer was, "My lord, I thought my lord was in consultation." You know, when a division bench of two judges is constituted and the lawyer is arguing, they need to consult each other. And when they talk in whisper with each other, the lawyer stops so that the judges could interact. And therefore, the lawyer got the opportunity to tell the judge, "My lord, I thought you were in consultation, and that's why I paused for that movement." Another one, C.K. Daftri, a former Attorney General of India, and also the Advocate General of the Bombay High Court. He was arguing before a judge of the Bombay High Court. He referred to an old English authority, read out a passage out of that. When he read it out, the judge felt that he needs to read it himself because it was not so very clear to him. So he asked Mr. Daftri to please pass on the book. Mr. Daftri flagged the page, passed on the book to the honorable judge. When the judge opened the book, he found a bug, a small bug in that particular page. So the judge says, "Mr. Daftri, what is this? Along with the book, you have passed a bug also." And up came the response from Mr. Daftri, "This is not the first time that a bug has passed from the bar to the bench." See, that's the way the mind works. Once Daftri again was to argue a case where, under the rules, the making of bricks was prohibited. for certain reasons as such. And that particular gentleman was accused of not acting in accordance with that particular rule. He had violated the law, and therefore the matter was before the court as to whether actually he has violated or not. Now, how Daftri explains, the making of bricks is different from caking and baking, which they lead to making, but this gentleman was only caking and baking the bricks. That's the way he responded to this particular situation in that context. Another former Attorney General, he came to argue a matter, a corporate matter. In the Punjab and Haryana High Court, I was present in court at that time. It was a thick fight, a real fat fight. When the matter was called, the court master picked up with difficulty, stood up, picked up the file, and tried to hand over to the judge. The judge did not take the file. And the judge says, Mr. Ramaswamy, I haven't gone through the case file. And G. Ramaswamy says, when my Lord wants an adjournment, what can I do in that situation? Shruti referred to the court incidents in my brother's court. This also is one from his court. In fact, he was a lawyer at that time. He was arguing a fresh matter before the first division bench of the Chief Justice. The bench was not agreeing. And in that particular process, the lawyer, my brother, was continuing to press his point from one side to another aspect to another aspect. Ultimately, the Chief Justice says, Mr. Gupta, we have suffered you for more than half an hour. And his response was, the suffering is mutual. See, another one, let me go back to Lord Denning. Shruti also referred to one of the incidents where the judge went off to sleep. A long case after lunch, and Lord Denning was also feeling sleepy and slanting towards a particular side. And he was bending down. In order to draw the attention, the lawyer threw the book, not to hit him with the book, but so that when the book falls, he would wake up. When he did that, suddenly Lord Denning realizes what had happened, and his response was, thank God I'm not an upright judge. You know, there are many situations and jokes about the Sardars also. And let me share with you, my daughter is married into a Sardar family. And therefore, I do not hesitate to share about that also. You know, a writ petition was filed in the Supreme Court to ban and prohibit jokes on Sardars. That petition was not allowed. And that's how I'm in a position to share one particular situation in court. Justice Kuldeep Singh, who was a lawyer at that particular point of time, was to argue a matter. He was busy in another court, in the Chief Justice Court. His case was called. His assistant counsel made a request, my lord, he is busy in the other court, if this matter could be adjourned and could be taken on some other date. The chief said, no, we have gone through the file and we would like to hear him today. Call him immediately. So Mr. Kuldeep Singh came rushing to the court. He enters the court. In the chief court, there's a wall clock at the back. It was exact 12 o'clock. When he enters and the Chief Justice says, yes, Mr. Kuldeep Singh. Kuldeep Singh looks back at the clock. My lord, I'm not in a position to assist my lords at this particular hour. That was his, which popularly we call Bara Baj Gaye, and therefore, in that particular context, his response was in that background. One more, and before I finish and hand over to Shruti, MC Setalwad was the first Attorney General of India. He was approached by a particular client to argue a matter on his behalf, looked into the file in detail and told the client, there is nothing in this file. The client insisted that he would like it to be done by Mr. Setalwad only. Mr. Setalwad told him, why do you wish to waste your time, your money, your energy? I've told you my considered opinion, there is nothing in this matter. He said, kindly reconsider. He reconsidered the matter and maintained his opinion not to file the matter. He still insisted. Then in order to dissuade him, Mr. Setalwad says, if this is the situation, I would charge you my double fee and would stand up in court and say, my lords, there is nothing in this matter. He said, please go ahead. Mr. Setalwad asked him, are you mad? He said, now you have no right to ask me whether I'm mad or not. You put two conditions, I've accepted your two conditions and you must go ahead with this matter. So he instructs his junior counsel to draft the petition and file it. The matter came up before the division bench of the Supreme Court, two judges. He was a grand old man. Before he could rise from his chair, the judges said, Mr. Setalwad, this needs consideration, notice. That was a surprise to him. He walks out of the court. He says, why did you insist? And the answer of the client was, my Jyotshi, the astrologer, had told me, get this case done from a lawyer with the name S, and you would succeed. Setalwad said, tell your Jyotshi, he knows more than what I know in this kind of a situation at times. Over to Shruti.
Thank you so much. Well, so anyone who thinks that talk is cheap has not probably hired a lawyer. So picking up from where Professor Gupta has left, and he was speaking about Kuldeep Singh, he talked about an incident when he was a lawyer, and I'm going to narrate an incident when he was a judge, and also refer to what our very own redoubtable G. Ramaswamy, our Attorney General, who often had displayed his expertise at repartee and quick comebacks. This is an incident which occurred at the Supreme Court when Mr. Ramaswamy was the Attorney General. And on the bench at that time, there were two formidable figures, and one of them was the Green judge, known for his environmental cause and issues that he used to take up, Honorable Mr. Justice Kuldeep Singh. And during one of the arguments which were happening, Mr. Ramaswamy was arguing the case, and during the course of the hearing, Justice Kuldeep asked him, "You think we are fools?" And Mr. Ramaswamy replied with a deadpan expression, "My lords have put me in a very difficult situation. If I agree, I am in contempt. And if I disagree, I commit perjury." Well, another incident that I would like to narrate is again of Mr. Ramaswamy before Justice Venkatachalaya in the Supreme Court. Mr. Ramaswamy was arguing on behalf of a company which was in default of electricity dues, which hadn't been paid by the company. Now, the company was facing the threat of permanent disconnection of electricity supply, and an SLP had been filed, and it was all likely being dismissed in the court. So Mr. Ramaswamy tried the gamble that, my lord, my client is poor, he is in hardship, and he needs the relief. And Justice Venkatachalaya, who was an astute judge, to predict him, and he said, "Look at the balance sheet of your company, of your client. On page number 63, Mr. Ramaswamy, your client's turnover has been shown just 3 years ago to be rupees 50 lakhs. And Ramaswamy, not to be left behind, said, "I know, my lord, but that was before they engaged me." So this is here where I'm talking about lawyers not being cheap. Well, he won the case, to share with you. Another incident when Mr. Ramaswamy had just resigned as the Attorney General, and he was appearing for a private client, and he was not making much headway with the bench, with the judges, and he invited a comment from the bench, the judges said, "Well, you see, Mr. Ramaswamy, till the other day, you may have been able to find a patient listener to your arguments." And they went on. Of course, they were referring to the fact that he was no longer the Attorney General of India. But Mr. Ramaswamy, unfazed by the silence which engulfed the courtroom after this statement of the court, he paused and he said, "I am glad your lordship brings this up. Only yesterday I got appointed to a post from which I can never be removed." And, before the courtroom could understand what he meant, he flashed his trademark smile and he said, it is the post of the former Attorney General of India. I would like to share a couple of incidents from the English courts as well, from the English House of Lords, where a lawyer counsel was once representing a lady who had an unusual name. Her name was Tickle. And to his luck, the matter came up before Lord Russell, who was a very, very sharp judge. Now the counsel started addressing the court and the judge, and he said, "My lord, Tickle my client, the defendant." And Lord Russell immediately replied, "Tickle her yourself. You are able to do it as I am." An incident when Lord Russell was a lawyer and a counsel and was appearing before a judge. And the judge who was appearing his appeal said to him, "Mr. Russell, you must give us some credit of knowing something," because he was going on and on. And Russell replied, "That is all very well, my lord, but that is just the mistake I made in the court below." My father narrated some incidents about a very eminent personality and a lawyer whose wit and wisdom and humor, which he used in court to win cases, was known across India, and I'm sure outside India as well, Mr. C.K. Daftri. Very early on, when the Bombay Prohibition Act was passed and alcohol consumption had been banned in the state of Bombay, Mr. C.K. Daftri, he was known to enjoy his drink, and he's reported to having said, "A republic without a pub is merely a relic." So he removed the word pub from republic and it became a relic. However, when a case challenging the legality of the Bombay Prohibition Act was instituted, Daftri very ably defended the state of Bombay as its Advocate General. And Justice Chagla, the Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court, again a very well-known judge during that time, during the course of the hearing, asked him for a list of the alcoholic substances that were banned under the Act. Mr. Daftri lifted the number of beverages and then said with a twinkle in his eye, "Not all intoxicating substances are liquid, though, my lord. There is a very addictive substance not in this list called power." One last incident of Daftri, while arguing a case before Justice Hidayatullah, who had been recently elevated to the Supreme Court, he was interrupted by Justice Hidayatullah, who said, "But Mr. Daftri, I have already taken a contradictory view when I was the Chief Justice of the Madhya Pradesh High Court." And pat came Daftri's reply, "Well, my lord, this is your chance to repent." Thank you. Over to Professor or Professor Deepti. I think the time is running out. We can go on, as I'm sure Professor would agree.
Professor Deepti, I'll just take a minute or two. Just a minute.
Sir, we are all so engaged with what both of you are saying. With the conversing, we've forgotten all time. So please go ahead.
We feel honored. We feel honored. So very thoughtful. Continuing with C.K. Daftri, Shruti is fond of C.K. Daftri, so am I also on that. There is a tradition in the Bombay High Court. When a judge retires, his portrait is hung in the judge's gallery in the Bombay High Court. On one particular occasion, when Daftri was the Advocate General, he addressed the meeting, paid rich tributes to that particular judge, and the last sentence was, "My lords, in due course of time, each of my lord is going to be hung over there." One more, and I'm through with it. There was a witness appearing in a criminal matter. He was asked, "Are you related to the accused?" He said, "Yes, but distantly." The next question was, "What exactly is the relationship?" His response was, "We are brothers." The judge was amazed. "If you're brothers, how are you distantly related?" And his response was, "We have 15 brothers and sisters. He's the youngest, I'm the eldest." It has been a delight, Professor Deepti, to be on this platform this morning. Thoroughly enjoyed. I don't know whether you all have enjoyed or not. We have, and it's a feast for us. Thank you so much for giving us this particular opportunity. Grateful.
It's a total privilege and an honor and a feast. I mean, words fail me. And we have Dr. Munishwar Joshi with us. Before we proceed, why don't we ask him how he enjoyed the session? Sir, please go ahead and share your ideas with us. Sonia, could you please unmute, sir? Sonia, could you unmute Dr. Joshi, please? Sonia? Dr. Joshi, I think you can unmute yourself. Why don't you try? There seems to be some technology
Connection
over
issue.
here. Sonia, can we unmute Dr. Joshi?
Unmute himself, ma'am.
Dr. Joshi?
Hello.
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
It has been a pleasure and privilege to attend such a beautiful discussion talk. And in this hour of pandemic, when we are all, socially distanced, this has been a pleasure to hear the erudite views of Professor Ram Gupta, Shruti Bedi, and then Deepthi Gupta. Thank you so very much, and we wish that such more programs could be made available to our fraternity. Thank you so much. And God
Thank
bless.
you, sir.
Thank,
Your
thank,
words really encourage us.
thank
We have a young lawyer with us today, Mr. Ravi Inder Singh, and I refer to him as the RTI king of Chandigarh, you know. Uh,
Quite right.
on occasion, he has even set me right at the department with his RTIs. So, Ravi, would you like to say something to all of us?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good to see you.
It is great pleasure to hear Shruti Devi ma'am and Dr. during this webinar and during this COVID time. Can you hear me?
Yes, there seems to be some disturbance.
Hello, can you hear me?
That's better. That's better.
Hello,
So then,
can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, we can, but there's some disturbance in between.
Hello,
Now it's
Now it's fine.
started.
there's some problem, I guess. Hello,
And no worries, we'll come back to you, Ravi. Just let's wait for things to get better. We have Mr. Amar Vivek with us. Mr. Amar Vivek, are you online?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sir is from the 1986 LLB batch, and he's a practicing lawyer, and he has always been a wonderful support to the association. Sir, would you like to say a few words, please?
I will be much obliged as my teacher, Dr. Balram Gupta, is here. And I remember once in a court of law, I was arguing something, and Dr. Gupta happened to be there. And when the judge is hard at me, and he said, "This is what you have learned in your law school." I remember Dr. Gupta telling that this I did not teach him. So, in fact, I will just narrate one courtroom incident. You know, sometimes it happens so suddenly and so instantaneously. It was probably my initial days in 1990 when Justice N.K. Sodhi had just been elevated. I was also a new lawyer, and I saw a very senior lawyer arguing a case. His appeal was time barred by about 400 days, and he was rattling judgment after the judgment. My lord, in this judgment, it was found that delay should be telephoned like that, like that. And my lord, Justice N.K. Sodhi was just smiling at him and not persuaded at all. And the old gentleman, very old lawyer, I must be 70 plus, when he realized his predicament, he took out one judgment. Earlier, he had cited 1989, 87, 86. He said, "My lord, I am going to cite a 1968 Punjab single bench to your lordship. And when your lordship read this judgment, your lordship will not be able to disagree." And at that, Justice was a bit annoyed. He said, "Mr. So, you just now cited Supreme Court in front of us, and you're talking of a single bench, Punjab and Haryana. Why will I not be able to disagree? He said, my lord, this is by your lordship's father, my lord Justice H.R. Sodhi. And so this is how the courtroom always remains alive, and any profession for that matter, teaching, courtroom, or any other profession. We are much thankful to Dr. Gupta and Ma'am Bedi. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Ravi, are you with us? Let's try again.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's much better. Please go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. It is so grateful to listen to you both, Professor Gupta, sir, and Dr. Shruti Bedi, ma'am. As Shruti Bedi, ma'am, have been a teacher in UILS. I have been a student in the 2005-2010 batch. And we have learned a lot from her, and we continue learning from her till today. And it was such a wonderful session that we had today during this COVID time. Thank you so much for this session, ma'am. And I would request Deepti ma'am to have another session with them so that we can have some more views from them on the
I can,
lighter notes during these times.
I can see Professor Gupta's staff who's, kind of dancing behind his chair with his files, etc. So I'm truly grateful to them for the valuable time. Sonia, are you back? There seems to be some episode due to the weather, some technical problem. So, would
Yes,
anybody
ma'am.
else? Yeah, yes, please. Hello? Yes, Sonia, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Just on my camera.
Hello?
Today, because of the weather, the net got slow. Hopefully, after
Yes.
Sir, ma'am, so grateful. Wonderful set. So stay. You know, I mean, it starts our day on a mind. So that's your permission. May I end the meeting, ma'am? You want to say something?
I think we can thank everyone. And let me tell all of you that Sonia is also the heart and soul behind this session. She spent so many hours planning this session, working things out with Professor Gupta and Professor Bedi. So we need to thank her first of all, and a big thank you to everybody.
Webinar.
Yeah. So I think we have kind of tweaked the whole idea of a webinar today. Please don't worry if you miss some points in between. We'll be putting the recording on our YouTube channel where all our webinars can be accessed. So you can access this session whenever you want to. Thank you very much, everyone. Shruti, would you like to say something?
Yes, I want to thank you. I think everybody is just thanking. I just want to add to that. Dr. Joshi, such a pleasure to have you here with us. It's an honor. Mr. Amal Vivek and Ravi, my good old student, who is, I can't believe that he's a RTI lawyer of such repute that people are scared of him now. But he
I
knows.
am scared of
No, no, that was just on the instructions of my client. That's all.
And Shruti, we have Professor N.L. Sharma with us from
Oh,
the
good
Department
morning,
of
sir. Good
Language Studies.
morning. So great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it was a feast for me listening my teacher, Professor Gupta.
I'm sure.
Thank you so much,
Nice.
Professor Sharma. Such a
Good
delight to
afternoon,
hear from
sir.
you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and good morning.
Good morning. So on that note, thank you everyone. God bless you all and keep laughing through the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pranam.
Yes,
Take
and I
care.
have
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sonia.
I put the for the if thank you sir. If anyone
Yes.
you can copy it here.
We have the link for our YouTube channel here in the chat box. You can make use of it. You can copy it from here, or we'll be sending it in our groups too. So no worries. Thank you.
Okay,
Have a
I will
nice
take the
day.
meeting. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sonia. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Amarji.